Hey there! We are Jess and Jetty, a Singaporean couple juggling our 9-to-5 corporate jobs while chasing our dreams to retire in the next 3 years. We are making this happen by creating multiple income streams and traveling to various cities to play poker. If you are new to our channel, hit that subscribe button and join us on this exciting journey as we travel the world for the best attractions, music festivals and food. So welcome to our special series on planning a wedding in Singapore.
I now pronounce you husband and wife in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Embrace the bride.
We recently hosted our dream wedding in a 5-star hotel in Singapore for 215 of our closest family and friends. After spending a whole year meticulously planning every detail ourselves without the help of a wedding planner, we gathered a wealth of knowledge and we are very excited to share them with you today.
Whether you're in the midst of planning your own wedding or simply curious about the Singapore wedding traditions, this series is perfect for you. In the first episode, we'll provide you a detailed breakdown of our wedding costs, including when you need to budget for the finances.
Since it's the most important day of our lives, we wanted to make it very memorable for ourselves and our family and friends. But at the same time, because we were funding the whole wedding ourselves, we went through a lot of vendors just to make sure that the ones that we got were for the best value and the best quality.
Yeah, and because our parents were not too traditional, so we actually pretty much decided everything ourselves. But at the same time, we know that every couple has different priorities, different goals, and different traditions. So our cost breakdown and our wedding is simply our own personal choice and is by no means a definitive guide.
So for now, let's dive straight in to the must-have items for your wedding. Do note that we have rounded off all the numbers for easy reference. Okay, so to start off, of course, we have to start with the biggest ticket item, which is the venue for the wedding banquet. We wanted an intimate setting with our closest friends and family, and we explored a lot of venues, including hotels and restaurants in Singapore. And we even considered a destination wedding in Bali, because if you can't tell already, we love Bali and we love the outdoor kind of vibes. But ultimately, we chose to host ours in Singapore because of logistical reasons and also to accommodate most of our relatives.
So hotel banquets can cost anywhere from $200 all the way up to $480, $500, depending on whether it's dinner, whether it's lunch, or whether it's weekday, weekend, and of course the venue itself. We secured a relatively good deal for our venue at $250 because that was a new launch price. And this package also came with other perks, some alcohol, wedding favors, and usage of the bridal suite for one night.
Prices keep increasing.
Of course, the GST this
GST.
year is more expensive, so we tried to pay most of it in 2023 so that we don't need to pay that additional 1% GST.
Yeah.
So in terms of timeline for this biggest ticket item, usually you have to pay $2,000 deposit to secure your dates, and then after which, once the contract is ready, you have to pay about 20% of the cost, so about $10,000. So this will be about 9 months before the wedding, which we secure our venue. 4 months before the wedding, you have to pay another lump sum of 60%. So this is quite painful, so you have to budget for that. And then finally, 1 month before the wedding itself, you pay the last 20%. We negotiated to pay all the extra other stuff at the end of the hotel stay. Basically, it was another $3-4K at the very end. So that helps space up the cost a bit more.
Besides spacing out the cost for us, we wanted to make sure that our guest numbers were confirmed, because nearing the wedding, numbers always change. So I think that really helped us to make sure that we are paying for what we used.
And definitely it won't be perfect. I think we paid for 215 guests, probably 210 in the end showed up. We had a couple of friends who were sick, unfortunately, but I think we were quite happy that in the end we only overpaid for 3-4 unused seats. The hotel was very kind. They allowed us to confirm our numbers 1 week before, so we really took that to push it all the way.
Okay, so the second most expensive item for the wedding, it's the event stylist. This makes up a very huge visual proportion of your wedding. Yeah, because that is the first thing that people see at your wedding. I think we compared about 8 vendors in total and we eventually chose 2 of them. I was really very happy with these 2 vendors because their quality was really good and they were quite value for...
I won't say that. It's expensive. I think different people value different things for sure. In this case, Jetty valued the decor a lot. And
I thought it was worth it.
I mean, it's okay. Eventually, when we saw the end product, we felt it was good. But when we were planning, we were like, wow, it's another big chunk into the budget.
One of the stylists, they mainly handled our aisle. To me, this is like the most important aspect of the wedding visuals because it's where we walk down the aisle, it's where everyone comes into the ballroom and this is the first thing that they see. And because this is the centerpiece of our wedding, I thought that we should spend a little bit more on this. It came out very well, very beautiful in all our photos and videos, right? It's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it. After seeing it's worth it, but before seeing it's like, wow, it's quite a big sum.
The second stylist, they took care of the rest of the decoration, including the solemnization backdrop, the reception table, photo display, and welcome signage. I chose them because they offered very, very affordable prices and also flexible arrangements.
Basically, we saved about 3,000 by going with the best of both worlds, because if we had gone with the owl vendor for all the rest as well, it would probably come up to 11k.
Yeah.
But in the end, we spent 8. So by getting the best of both worlds, we actually save some money here.
And also, lastly, the florist that provided the bridal bouquet, the botaniers, the wreath corsages, and the car decorations. These were many small items which I didn't really think that it would add up, but it did add up to a significant cost.
So in terms of the payment timeline for all these vendors, it's usually 50% upon confirmation and then 50% of the remainder upon delivery. So for here, I think you have to budget about 3 to 6 months because most of these vendors, you want to confirm them ahead of time.
They are very competitive, so book them 6 months in advance at least.
So of course, if we are planning such a big wedding, we want the best videographers and photographers. So this is a big item for us as well. We went through a long list. We started actually with, most importantly, the videographer because I think their portfolio, you can tell whether it's a style that we like. So we chose the videographer first, and then they had a package deal with a photographer which we quite like as well. So we ended up spending about 4,500. Here the range is quite wide, as low as 2,000 for both, and we've seen as high as 5,000 to 6,000 just for the videographer. So I think here we are about on the average. We paid about 4,500 for both.
Yeah, thing to note is that they are usually cheaper in packages. So if you hire like a la carte videographer and a la carte photographer, it's usually more expensive than if you hire both in a package.
And also if it's same day edit, that means they play your gate crash and all your day stuff in the wedding reception. It'll be typically more expensive because that includes editing time and also it's a longer duration. But if you just want them to do the banquet itself, then probably 4 hours may suffice and it might be significantly cheaper that way.
Okay, so coming to the next item, the most exciting item for me, which is the gown. Typically, gowns, they range from $1,000 to $10,000 per gown. The higher end being the designer gowns, which actually we were not really into. A designer gown looks and feels the same as like a normal in-house design gown to us. So that's why we went with more affordable choice. Usually they sell in packages of 3 to 4 gowns and you get like 1 to 2 free suits. It gets more value for money the more gowns or the bigger packages that you buy. So in the end, we got a package of 4 gowns and 2 suits. We used 1 gown and 1 suit for our pre-wedding shoot in Bali and the rest of it for our big day.
So for the suits, I think it was a similar process. We had the option of going the designer route like Gucci, Boss, and also some tailored option. In the end, through our family trip in Shanghai, we actually found a tailor that did 2 of my suits. We spent around 1,000, which we thought was great value. I received quite a few good compliments on my suit. They thought it was a few $1,000s worth, but actually it was tailored in Shanghai. So if you like the contact, you can drop me a message. I'll send you their WeChat.
Okay, so for the makeup artist, to be honest, I wasn't very picky about my makeup artist because like
Because you look good already, no need.
Oh, that and also honestly they all look quite similar online, so I didn't know how to decide on one. I went to this trial with one of the makeup artists that I chose and she did a very good job during the trial, so I decided to go with her.
And you have to pay for the trial as well, right?
Yeah, I have to pay for the trial. So the package actually comes with a trial and usually people just buy the package and go for the trial, but I did the opposite. So I paid for the trial, which is $300, and after that when I decide to confirm on her, then I paid for the full package. I think for me it's important to do the trial first and then decide whether this is really what I want.
So for the wedding band, we got a simple one in the end. Obviously this range is quite wide as well, so depending on your preference, we went with a simple pair of rose gold band that costs about 2,000. This doesn't include the engagement ring. That's a whole different story. But yeah, in the end we went with a simple wedding band. So now we are moving on to the items that are more optional. Depending on individual couples, these are items that you may or may not want to include. So for us, the biggest optional item that we spent was the after party. After parties are obviously optional, but for us it was quite important. We had friends flying in all the way from US for one weekend, so we had to show them a good time. So in the end, we booked the after party at Marquee, Singapore's probably best club, biggest venue as well. We ordered the first round of drinks, we prepaid so that when everyone came, the drinks were there already. That way, people wouldn't be awkward about who's going to buy. But once the drinks get flowing, obviously all our friends start buying, start chipping in. I think in the end we spent about 20k total from the table. So thank you to all our very generous friends who bought the drinks. We spent about 4,000, including the bus that we chartered from the hotel to the venue. Fun fact, we actually had a guest list for 70, and then before we reached there, we were told by the VIP manager that we had exceeded our list, and we're like, that can't be true. So we increased our guest list to 100, and we still busted that. And by the time we reached Marquee as well, the drinks were all out, but obviously our friends bought more in the end.
The next optional item is a live band. So it's a good to have because you can actually play like your Spotify playlist if you don't have a live band. But we chose to engage in a live band because we wanted our guests to have a fun time, even in the interim periods throughout our banquet. And we wanted to create this lively atmosphere, which I think our band did it very well.
So it was a 3-piece band comprising of a singer, a violinist, and a keyboardist. Yeah, we didn't hear much, but when we were there, they actually sang the live song for Machin, so that was also quite important to us.
Yeah, it was very romantic, so...
So for the pre-wedding shoot, obviously it's optional. I think most couples will choose to do it. The question is where. I've seen some local packages where it goes as low as 500, or you can do a destination pre-wedding shoot, which in our case we chose, no surprises, but we chose Bali. So we spent about 2,800. 1,008 of that went to the photographer, the makeup artist, getting the horse, and then the other 1,000 was mainly flights and the comm.
And it was the best decision of our life. Like, the photos were so good. I'm really impressed, and it's really worth the money.
We were very concerned on the day because we went in December actually, quite a heavy rain period, but we were very lucky with the weather. The hotel package will typically come with some alcohol, but it will never be enough depending on your crowd, and we know for our crowd it won't be enough. So we spent about 2,500 more on alcohol, which was actually quite little because we got distributor price. If you had bought from the restaurant, I think it would be way more. So this is actually with free corkage. We
still ran out of alcohol. We ran out of alcohol at the wedding banquet, and we ran out of our alcohol at Marquee, so I don't know what went on.
So to be clear, the 2,500 was for about 25 bottles of hard liquor and 30 bottles of wine. This was on top of the 20 free bottles of wine that we got and 70 liters free beer that we got from the hotel.
So one of the reasons why we didn't engage in a wedding planner is because we know that we have really talented and responsible friends, our bridesmaids and groomsmen. Shout out to you guys! And we really couldn't have done such a successful wedding without our bridal crew.
Basically, we spent about 2,000 in total. This includes the groomsmen outfit, the pants that we tailored for them, the suspenders, the bow tie, some gifts as well, and includes the bridesmaids' dresses,
the
and
gifts.
Yeah, but this does not include the gate crash, which we will discuss later, the gate crash ampao. So this is just purely for the gifts that we got for them.
Hotel packages, they usually come with a free night stay at their bridal suite. So for us, we had one night at the bridal suite and one complimentary room for our parents. We had to book 2 extra rooms, one more for our parents and also an additional night at the bridal suite.
So we checked in one night before, which was a very good choice because actually it helped everyone. They can bring in all the alcohol and all the extra stuff in the night before. I think it's a must to check in one night before.
We didn't really get much sleep also. So I think it's very convenient to check in one night before, and early next morning we already have to wake up to start preparing for the day. They usually offer a discounted rate for the couple if you want to book extra rooms. In this case, we got it at a 15% discount.
So in Singapore, it's quite customary to give angpaos for good service as a show of your appreciation, of your gratitude. So here we spend very willingly because the staff that we worked with or that served us were all phenomenal. So here we spent about 1,500, but super worth it. I think they all deserve every single dollar of that.
This one particular service crew, she was like a personal butler to me. Throughout the dinner banquet, she was following me around, like helping me to manage my gown, which is like 10 kg, asking me if I needed water or food. So we gave her quite a big angpao.
We gave her 88. Just to share a bit more details, we gave some of our vendors around 88, and then the chef, and then the banquet manager. I think most importantly, the wedding coordinator, we gave that one the biggest, about 168, because she helped us throughout and plan our wedding throughout the whole process. So definitely invaluable help. That's a breakdown, but eventually it all added up to quite a bit. So a photo booth is a must-have for a lot of couples, something fun that people and guests can take. We decided to do a roving photo booth. So in this case, the photographer went around taking candid shots of people, and then he printed the photo on the spot and gave it to them. Not a traditional photo booth option, but we were really happy with this option.
Yeah, and besides the prints, throughout the banquet itself, they also have a real-life slideshow of the photos that they have taken. So I think that really added on to the liveliness of the banquet. Guests were really happy to see their faces on the big screen. Okay, so besides the wedding favors that came with the hotel package, including the guest book and the wedding favors, we also spent some additional money printing out our own wedding invites and our wedding certificates, and also we added on for a wishing wall for our guests to write their messages to us, and the customized angpao box with our customized monogram.
And we saved money here on the name cards, because if you wanted to print name tags for the guests, it was like $3 per guest, so that's like 600. But in the end, we wrote it ourselves, or she wrote it, so it cost us like $50.
I spent quite a lot of time writing it. So I think this is a good to have item, but because I'm a designer, I needed to do this for myself.
So on the actual day, we also went to Gardens by the Bay for a photo shoot with our bridal party, since everyone is dressed so nicely and uniformly. With the tickets, we pre-bought it to save time as well, so we spent about $250 here. So this is additional information that might have extra cost. We didn't want to include this in the optional cost as well, because it's really up to you, and we decided to be a bit creative. So in Singapore, it's customary to do a gate crash. It's a tradition where the groom and his groomsmen will prove their love to the bride, and the bridesmaid will set up all these obstacles, basically an excuse for silly games and to get angpaos. So to get past each stage and each door, the groom have to prepare a gift or angpao for the bridesmaid. So usually most couple will do the gate crash on the actual day, but we felt that will be a bit tiring, because that means that you have to wake up at like 6 a.m. So what we did was we combined our gate crash with our bachelorette and bachelor party in Bali. This means that we had to engage 2 sets of videographer and photographer, one for the gate crash in Bali, because it's not covered by the actual day photographer and videographer. So on this note, maybe I'll share a bit more, like you have to budget some money for this as a groom. I didn't have much prior experience.
No one has prior experience.
My groomsmen crew didn't advise as well. Most of them did not have the experience. So in the end, I gave a big one at the start, which was not smart, because you still need to prepare a lot of small ones along the way. So my groomsmen had to bail me out by basically giving all the money they have in their pockets. They emptied their pockets of rupiah, and then in the end we still had to do bank transfer. So in the end we spent about 1,800 here on the Bali gate crash. So you still need to build that into the cost, but it's borne by the groom. And I think in this case, Team Bridesmaid clearly won here. So well done to them. They got a good deal, I think. 1,800 is for the gate crash, just the angpaos, and then we spent another about 1,500 on the videographer and photographer in Bali. So another customary tradition is this thing called kuotali. What it means is that it's the handover day where the bride's parents hand over the bride to the groom. So we have stuff like suckling pig and traditional like Teochew snack. So our parents were not that traditional, so we did quite a simple one, but still you have to budget like for the suckling pig and for the snacks and the alcohol as well. And the jewelry, which we won't cover here, is the 4点金. Usually it comprises of a necklace, a earring, a bracelet, a bangle, because it's really up to the individual like how much you want to spend on this. So in most wedding, guests will usually give a blessing. In Chinese wedding, it's an angpao, red packet, to offset the cost. Now obviously we don't expect the guests to cover whatever additional optional costs that we incurred, because these were all purely our own decision, like what we wanted to do to make ourselves and our guests have the best experience. We took on a lot of additional costs, and we were quite grateful that overall our angpao covered about 75% of our costs. So that we were very, very appreciative for. Obviously a lot of guests we were very happy to have there. Any amount does not matter. Some even flew in all the way from US, a 17-hour flight for just the weekend to spend with us.
And that was already an expense in itself to fly all the way.
So in the end, we were very grateful that we offset quite a significant bit of the cost. And so the remaining amount that we spent, we felt was more than worth it for literally the best nights of our life.
Yes! Woo!
And yeah, many of our friends said at the wedding they had a great time in terms of program, in terms of food, in terms of alcohol, in terms of after party, in terms of pictures. So for that, we were truly grateful. We really had a good time.
There's no price tag to that.
There's no price tag to that. You can see that having a wedding in Singapore is not cheap. It requires a lot of financial planning, and a lot of costs are incurred 3 to 4 months before the actual wedding day. And you know, the ang paos will only offset on the wedding day. So you have to budget, you have to manage your finances accordingly. And we hope that this video gives you some insights to when you have to budget those amounts and how much you have to budget depending on your preference.
Okay, so that's all for the financial aspect of the wedding planning. In the next video, we will deep dive on the different vendors that we considered and how we derived at our final choice and whether we felt that it was worth the cost that we paid. So hit the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell so that you don't miss the next video. See you! Bye bye!